And then when I was on the journey around the world, I got bitten by a mosquito bite called the tiger mosquito, and had the West Nile virus in it. And that, took me out of 9 months of my life.
Having a stable job, it gives security and then consistent revenue, and then become an entrepreneur is something a bit more risky, and then you don't know exactly what's going to happen, so you don't have that kind of stability.
That you meet these people who offer you possibilities you wouldn't have seen in your old life because you have that filter and you just look into one direction.
Let me tell you a fun fact about our podcast. We're at the beginning process, and you can have a tremendous influence over our channel. By just liking and subscribing to our channel, you'll help us increase the quality of the videos that we're creating. Also, you'll stay in the loop with the new videos which are coming every week. Thank you, and enjoy the episode.
Welcome, Julia. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm looking forward to our conversations. It'll be really exciting. So without further ado, let's just jump directly into it. I'm really curious to learn more about your experience, and also specifically about the upcoming book you're working on. So just tell me a bit about the book and what inspired you to write it.
I had an interesting journey in the last almost 10 years, I would say, because I was a German Beamter, so a German teacher in the very secure school system. And I always had the feeling there's somehow more, because I always had like a hobby. I'm a juggler as well, so I liked circus also when I did my sports studies or PE studies, but I always had this colorful, crazy world around me because it fascinated me to do something different, but I never really dared to do that as a main job. And long story short, at the end, I was traveling around the world in 2013 and had my a sabbatical, and I got very sick. We were perhaps going to talk about it, and then the juggling helped me to get out of that bad time. And so I started traveling again, and this was really also a time where I changed completely in personal growth and stuff like that. And so I thought that my journey is perhaps a trigger or help or guidance for other people who would like to change some point in their life.
But what was the moment that inspired you specifically? Is it like, okay, I should collect all my stories and put them into a book format for people to be able to read them?
Really, it was more a coincidence, because I thought, I'm not that old that I'm writing a book about my life or stuff like that. No? So, but I know some people that got inspired through my stories. For example, the Nomad cruise, where we met as well in that community. Apparently, I tell these stories with so much passion that they follow this route or try it out as well and pick like the puzzle parts for their lives. So, and I also like photography, and some people said, ooh, the pictures are also a bit better than a hobby photographer. So the idea came up to do like a kind of a guidebook for special parts in the world, or special events as well in the world that you can try out, and as well my stories behind it. So this was the inspiration for the book.
So what kind of key experience do you have that you highlight in the book specifically?
What pre-experience?
No, key experience, sorry.
Okay. Tell me again what you mean with that? What kind of experiences?
Like key experience, some like memorable experience. That's something that you highlight in the book.
Sorry, I had something, the wrong word in my head. But key experience, I understand. The key experience is perhaps also some people just change when they have something that is really unexpected. Mostly it's, I don't know, you lose your partner in a relationship, or you get sick, or something is so annoying that you really say, I have to change something, or it doesn't have to go further like this. And I always had this, subtle feeling, teacher for my whole life. I don't know if that is the way. And then when I was on the journey around the world, I got bitten by a mosquito bite called the tiger mosquito, and had the West Nile virus in it. And that, took me out of 9 months of my life, because it's followed by a lot of pain in joints, muscles, and nerves, and you are not able to really move or without pain. So, and that's a long time. It was the same period of time as my journey was long, 9 months traveling around the world, and then 9 months in bed and not moving at all, and being and this followed into a depression. So there I thought, as a PE teacher with this pain, didn't feel like this is going to continue, because I had, after, I don't know, 5 months, the feeling, with this pain, living with this pain, I don't know how that is going to work. And then through the depression, I realized what I really want. So, because then you do a lot of personal growth, feel better, and then the thing that the pain went away when I started to juggle again. A therapist asked me, what do you really love? And as a child, I love juggling. At the moment, I don't do it because I'm not in the mood. I'm looking at pain. What is this? I have a double sound at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but there was a double sound of mine now. Just
like an echo?
Yeah, do you have that as well?
No.
Oh, okay, you have to cut out this part perhaps then, because there was just if there's a third person in it. So through that pain, or in the therapy, that pain, I realized, when the guy asked me, what did you really like as a child? I said juggling, and he said, start to juggle again. I said, with that pain, no way. And also, I was depressed, so you are not in the mood to do funny things. But then I realized, okay, I can continue like this, being depressed every day, not knowing how it's going to continue my life. And then I said, okay, I try it, and somehow there came up this joy somewhere. It was completely covered for months. And then I was so surprised, because I could juggle even with that pain, and through that joy, the pain was not so relevant anymore. And I said, this is very strange. So for 9 months, I took ibuprofen 5 times a day, and now juggling and meditating made the pain better. So how did that work? So there I was so surprised, and it still took another 3 months until it went completely away. And still today, I have that pain sometimes when I'm too stressed or don't sleep a lot. But then I see it as a sign, stop. It's too much. But it's not really related to the West Nile fever anymore. But apparently, my body took that symptom to say, stop, too much. So, and I realized, as I never had the feeling that mind, body, and soul are so connected until that time. So it healed when I did what I really like. So that was for me the big changing point, or the key experience. And then also that I can create my life what I want, and I don't have to be a people pleaser or do something what the society wants me to do, like having a secure job or stuff like that. And that you can create your own life. You just have to feel well, and you have to accept the consequences. That's the thing, because
That's a good conclusion. And I wanted to ask you next, I think you already kind of tap into already. What would you hope that the book will, how do you hope that the book will impact readers?
I guess that there are so many people who have this turning point already, but they are not really able to turn it into something that makes them happy. As it takes a lot of time, and then they don't dare, because leaving the comfort zone is so awkward. Because I also had to accept for a year to live on the money, on my savings. Yeah. And you don't know if it's working, whatever you do, like a project or changing your life or finding a new job in a different environment or whatever it is. Yeah. So for me, the question, are you willing to take the consequences of your decisions, because it's your life, but you are the most important person in your life, so you should do it. And when I realized that it worked, it was just magic. No? When you decide, I want to change or I want to go that way, then people come into your life I feel it's still magic, or it's the law of attraction or whatever, that you meet these people who offer you possibilities you wouldn't have seen in your old life because you have that filter and you just look into one direction.
That is very interesting to say that, because I spoke with a lot of nomads, and I also I've had quite a few people on the podcast. And what I've seen as a common line is that every single person started after a negative experience. So they needed that kind of breaking point or that push to transform their life and to move, just go in a different direction. And I feel like every kind of negative experience that comes your way, it's a opportunity in disguise. And I think you pinpoint very nicely that, that happened to most people, but only a few people managed to turn that around and make something beautiful out of it.
It's such a pity that we just move when it hurts, because the other thing is, when it's so much joy that you want to follow in this direction, it's the same movement, no? But most people just move when it hurts. It's such a pity. I hope as well, like with the book, perhaps it doesn't have to hurt that much, that they see the signs before and just realize, okay, perhaps take a mentor at my side or a coach, because also I never had dived into the personal growth scene or so. No? I never had a coach on my side. I always thought, oh, it's psychotherapy. You dive deep into it. So you're dangerous. But at the end, it was just such a treasure. To get to know myself, and also I became a coach after as well, because I realized coaching is so much more than as a physiotherapy. I would say physiotherapy has its place, because when you really feel sick or depressed, you need someone who helps you in that moment to cope with it and to give you new ideas, and also as a cope with that feelings, with a very expertise or a big expertise. But the coaching always focuses on your vision, or the way when you feel better. What can you take out of it? What do you want to create? How does that feel? And that helped me so much that I would inspire people really to have a coach or find someone who helps you to see the blind spots in your life.
Yeah, that's absolutely very helpful to have somebody, even if you don't have a coach, even a mentor or somebody who has been through that would be very useful. And something I'm very curious about, because I also like to write a lot. I don't write like in a book format, but more into like screenwriter format, because I like to tell stories through videos. But what was the most challenging part of writing the book from your perspective?
The most challenging part for me was first really to put everything into a written language, because as I'm working also as a TV journalist and host, and so I'm very good in the spoken language, or that it's capturing and stuff like that, but really writing it in that same way is not always easy. So this was the first challenge, to step into a completely different field. And the next challenge is that you really have a revival of all these moments, and the wonderful moments, the joyful moments, like swimming with dolphins in New Zealand. This is really like as a very joyful moment that it's easy to express for me, but also going through that whole depression part, but not make it too heavy for the reader, but to show him the beauty in a depression, because depression just means you press some emotions you don't like so deep down in your basement that you get sick. But when you open the door, there are so many treasures in it, and you learn from yourself. This is it was amazing, but also very emotional again.
Yeah, that's something really interesting, because is I have experienced something similar when you're writing. You actually have to go through the stages that you've been through in order to be able to express the emotion accurately so the people can feel it as well. So if somebody can feel it, you'll feel it more strongly yourself when you write it, because you've been there and you know how it is.
And you really have the feeling, as I have the feeling, since I had this period, life is so much more intense. So I really feel like all the colors of life. I think before I just had yellow, orange, red, like all these joyful colors, but like brown, blue, green, I never really touched. Yeah, because as it was also not the time, or I don't know, or I didn't have really big problems before, but still I didn't want to look at it as well, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And something interesting that you mentioned before as well, which is the translating from the spoken language into the written language. And I've noticed that as well, because we don't speak and write in the same exact language. We have different wording. And I've noticed that when I was writing scripts for myself to narrate on the video, I would read them out loud and sound very unnatural. I was like, that doesn't sound like me.
That's the same. Yeah, that's the same when we also teach now at the media school, what I own now. There are so many people who learned at university to well write their thesis and stuff like that. And then they should transform these news informations they get from the internet, from these special platforms, to a spoken news. Yeah, and this is so difficult for so many people because you don't use these very expertise words when we talk. Now, I could say, I want to amplify my life. This is perhaps written language, no? But when I talk to you, I say, I wanted to have a better life. Done. Point.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you, like, what would be one thing that you learn, one trick that you use when you're translating this into your minds, when you try and write down the chapter that's you could tell very easily verbally? What technique would you use to be able to adapt the language properly?
I think what I also teach when we speak, and that's the same when you read as well, verbs have much more power than like normal words. Yeah, like you could say, I don't know, the function of this and this is so deep and or so heavy, to pronounce. But you say when you use the verb of whatever you talk, it's always so much easier to understand and so much more filled with emotions and also motion, because you realize that you really paint a picture with your words. Just do it very easy, so as you would speak as well.
Okay. So you use more verbs when you're writing as opposed to when you're talking.
Yeah, same also when I teach people to talk in front of the camera. Yeah, also use more words because it's much more active than passive.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. I'll try that next time. Right.
Just when you realize, oh, this is a difficult sentence, or I pronounced it I wrote it in a very complex way, I would say, just use the word and make it very simple and just take one thought for one sentence. This is also so much easier.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. I want to ask you about, just going back in time a bit, about your pivotal moments, because you had a very stable government job and then you decided to become an entrepreneur, which is a big leap because, having a stable job, it gives security and then consistent revenue, and then become an entrepreneur is something a bit more risky, and then you don't know exactly what's going to happen, so you don't have that kind of stability. What was that moment when you transition between the two of them, and what inspired you, and how did you manage the change?
I guess the moment was when I did my coaching training. I was still a teacher, but in a kind of a sabbatical leave again. So I could just take another one and another year and another year, but I always had to say in December, okay, I'm not coming back yet. I could do this for 6 years, and then I really have to decide to get out of the system. So I tried many other things. I went to Nomad Cruise and I realized, okay, but completely living from whatever at that time it was, coaching or juggling with stressed managers, I had many ideas. I didn't feel that it's working for me. So I felt it's not working for me because I don't know how to do the marketing, and I had no idea of your client avatar and stuff like this. And I said, why do I need this? I just want to teach or help people. No? So I had no idea of all this universe that is around your self-employment. No? And then I became again a teacher in a different school system, on a pension school, not many kids, different pedagogical method. And so I always still had one foot in the teacher job because I thought I need the security. And then when I did my teacher training, and it was again December, and I had to say to the government, I'm coming back or not. And I told him, but I created a kind of a coaching camp for young people, like 16 to 21, and nobody signed up, and it didn't work, and I don't know how the marketing, I was really in this me mode. And then he said, do you think it's possible for you? And then I at first said, yes, I hope, yeah, but I realized I don't think that it's possible for me because I learned to be a teacher and this is secure. So I was not really 100% convinced. And this is like this kind of, that it holds you back and you don't do, even if you want to have a different life, but there is this stopping thing, what doesn't bring you in the right direction. And then I realized, okay, if I want to do something different, I say to the government, no, I take another year and I try something completely different. Don't be a teacher anymore in the school. And then I applied even if it's a kind of a school, but very different, I applied at that institute I'm owning at the moment. And it's a media school. And I learned a lot from when I did the training 20 years ago with that, at that time, old woman already who owned it and who did it for 30 years. And I wanted to become a trainer. And I just applied, and she said, oh, it's such a pity because I'm closing the school in summer. And I said, oh, no, why? Because I learned so much also concerning personal growth, but also in the journalism way, to be a TV host. And then she said, after, I don't know, 10 minutes where we're having lunch together, she said, but you can have it. And I said, what? So, and this was, I would say, at that time, I did so much personal or inner work that I somehow curiously said, oh, yeah, and now what is with that method? You have so great trainers, and I was interested in. And then she said, you can have it. But before, I would say 3 years ago, she could say, you can have it. And I said, oh, nee, also, I didn't learn this. Also, yeah, I'm not really an expert in it but I studied journalism, but I was a teacher at that time. I still was in this teacher identity that I thought I can't do it. Yeah, but sure, I'm a teacher, so I can also teach journalism because I did the studies. I just need to learn her methods. Yeah,
that's really interesting. That's, when you're good at teaching, you can basically teach anything you know, right? You don't necessarily have to be trained into teaching anything specifically because you know how to teach people a lot of things, and you can just learn, how to make tea, and then you can be able to teach people that, or cooking, or whatever else could be, just because you know how to communicate the message to a broader audience, so they will understand and learn the skill.
And as well, I could also forgive myself in a way to do something completely different, because I always thought, oh, you studied 5 years, you did the teacher training, you were 10 years a teacher, and now you just throw everything away. But I don't. I take just the nuggets out of it. I learned really how to structure well lessons that people like to learn, and not, oh God, it's boring, this teacher. Yeah. So I get the feedback when I teach people now voice training, performance training, I get a lot of feedback. Oh, it was so much fun, and it was so vibrant, and oh, it's 90 minutes, it's already over. That's a good feedback for me. So I'm doing it with passion. I'm still a teacher, but in my own created world.
Yeah, you touched there on a very interesting point. I think that a lot of people are in that situation. As you mentioned, like to change your life, you have to let go of the old life. So like, well, I spent a lot of time, investing into building those skills that I need, and now I have to move to a different direction. And that's one of the dragging point back, because people feel like they're going to waste time. But from my experience and what I've talked to other people as well, you can always find something to use. There's always some benefit of, even if you don't use them directly, there's always some benefit to the skills or the learning you had in the past. I can give you just a quick example. I don't want to derail the conversation, but I was in med school for 2 years when I was 18. And then I changed my career, and I felt like, I just wasted 2 years. And now, like 10 years later, I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I know a lot of stuff that many people don't. I've been through a lot of different procedures that many people haven't. And I have a good degree of understanding about the medical system that most people don't. It's like, even if you can say I wasted 2 years, but like, I feel like I have a degree of knowledge in that area that most people don't. And I've been, fortunate enough to be able to help some people randomly on the streets as well, that they had some accidents. And I realized how calm I was on those, like, just mild injuries, but like how calm I was. Everybody was freaking out. Like, oh, I got that from those 2 years in med school. Just I didn't waste my time. That gave me a set of skills that most people don't have. I don't think you ever waste time in doing something. It just, there's always a way you can incorporate the skills that you have into what you want to do next.
And I also have to say, when I got to know the Nomad community, it just opened my horizon. What you can do in this, locally independent world. And there were so many people from so many different walks of life and backgrounds, and what they created, or how they created their business to take it into the world or wherever they want to go. And like, there was on the first Nomad cruise I went, there was a girl, Learn German with Anya. You can Google it. She is a German a teacher who teaches German for people from all over the world, just with YouTube videos. Because she had so much fun in traveling, so she uses the places where she is to explain a grammatical phenomenon or something like this. And she is living her life, and she is earning enough money and a lot of money to travel. And that's her life. And I was just saying, oh, she's also a teacher in a different way, and she didn't even study being a teacher. No? I think she studied something, economics or tourism management. I don't know. As it was not a language teacher she was not a language teacher at that time. No? But when she was traveling, apparently she needed money, or I don't know the story exactly, but she applied at the Goethe Institute to become a teacher in Thailand as long as she wanted. No? So, and then when she said, oh, I don't want to stay here anymore, I can take my students with me through the videos. Or another guy was a guitar teacher and just does it in a very perfect way. I don't know. It's a very special thing what he's teaching, and he is also a YouTube school for musicians. So I realized, the horizon, it just was so big at that moment, and for that the Nomad Cruise was really perfect for me, because I'm not completely independent. I have my school based in Frankfurt, but I can, as a CAO, I can just organize it that I'm away for 2 months or 4 weeks or so, because I have wonderful trainers and we just organize it well.
Yeah. I would like to go a bit later on to the Nomad Cruise, but I have a question before that. So when I was a kid, my dream was to travel, and then I grew up in an environment where those options were very limited. It was either military or journalism, or like missionaries from the local church, or the circus. So I grew up being in a huge environment of the circus from 2 reasons. One, because they're traveling so much, and for another, for their athletic abilities. And that was very fascinating to me. So I would like to ask you just about your experience with, juggling and, being part of the social circus trainer. How was that, and how would that influence your life?
In my normal surroundings, I was extraordinary in that way, because I was in a normal school where you do your graduation, then you go to university. But I learned juggling the first moment I learned it from my grandma, and she learned it from a soldier when the war was in Germany. And so it was this funny, joyful moment in a really bad time. I realized much later what a kind of a gift she gave to me. And I was just so passionate about this new hobby that I got to learn, but I got to know some people. But when you come from a family or a surrounding, an academic surrounding, because my mom was a doctor, my dad was a judge, everything around me was like really academic people. And then you say, I want to go away with the circus. They just laugh and say, yeah, and what's your real job? And for me, and so for me, when I was 22, I wanted to do, because I studied French and PE, so I thought it's the perfect combination to go to France or to Belgium. There's one of the best circus schools in Europe, in Brussels, to do my this year abroad in a circus school. I don't have to do it in a normal school, but in a circus school I can teach PE as well and learn a lot. And I told this to my dad and said, I'm going to a circus school, and he said, what's your normal job? No. So he didn't really say no, that you are not allowed to do it, but he didn't take me serious. So at that time I thought, okay, I'm not loved anymore if I'm going to that circus school, as something was in me like this. So I didn't do it. I went to Switzerland, to the French part of Switzerland, became a normal teacher assistant or assistant teacher for language or for languages. But at the Lake of Geneva, there are 2 circus schools as well. So I took that year and did my teaching job, earned my my security with that money, because this is in Switzerland quite well. And then developed it's my best show act, what I developed at that time, juggling with the tennis balls and the tube. So I had both at that time, but I never really dared to make it to my normal job, to be on stage. Now I dare to be on stage, being a keynote speaker, juggling aside, being a host, and integrate the juggling. But at that time, at 22, 24, never dared.
Do you feel like your parents' perception had a big impact on your choices that you made?
Yeah, also completely. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty sad to see, just like you see parents that they're so keen of their kids going in a specific direction that they don't allow, or they don't even allow the idea of something else, which is outside of the region.
But what really made me feel better at the end, when I did also my coaching training, they are the first-time parents. So they do the best what they can do. And at that time, I think for my parents, it was just, she doesn't want to do the normal secure job. What do we do? So it's not that they really said, we permit, we are not allowing you to do that. But I felt that it's not good if I decide this. I can't come back home or whatever. They never said it, but it was just this underlying feeling, and so I can't be really, angry with them that they didn't let me do that, because I didn't dare neither. So because I was not strong enough at that time to really follow that way. And today I would say it's good that I did the studies, because now I have the university degree. I did my journalism studies, so I have also another puzzle part for the Logo Institute now, because that's the basic you need. As everything is good now, but at that time you see, I want to do something else, but now everything falls in place, and this is amazing. But you can just do that when you decide, this is my way and I'm open to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this idea of falling in place, it's up to you. Like, you make your choices and then you make whatever you can do with what you have available. But it's great sometimes. Like I had the same experience with my parents, but I had really fantastic friends that pushed me in direction. So when I started traveling, I have a very good friend of mine in London, and he told me, like, listen, there is no losing situation here. Whatever happens, if you lose your job, if anything, you come back, sleep on my couch for a couple of weeks until you find a job here. There's nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you start fresh over, and then just get back to where in another year or so. So it was like this idea of like, there's not so much to lose. I think it's fantastic. If and the same with the parents, right? They say, if you have kids who want to go in directions, like, do your thing, and then if that doesn't work out, come back here and then do university. It's like, just I like to let people try their things. I'm supposed to telling them that, that's not the thing for you. And what this friend did to me and showed me was like, I'm going to accept your help you out regardless of what happens. So that gave me a lot of confidence to go forward. It's like, I have a sort of a backup plan. I think it's great. I've seen parents doing the same, just like go do your thing. And if it doesn't work out, you can always come back to us and then, we'll help you out. And then you can go to university later on.
Yeah, this is, I would say this is like the attitude of today more than at that time, no? Like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, I had the feeling, because my parents are still from this pre-war generation, and then for them it was the only secure way, to study, to take your own business, to get as fast as you can in a secure job, to have a good basic, because they came from a time where there was no security in life and not in the economics or whatever.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's like they live in different environments and they haven't realized that the world has changed nowadays and it's a lot more volatile.
Yeah, as I know many parents in my age now, they really leave them free in their decisions, and so the kids and just do the creative things or study music or study arts or whatever. Yeah. But at that time, I had the feeling many also in my age, they just, they had to do, like, I don't know, BWL is the German word for the economic studies and so on. So I would say 80% did that, who didn't want to become a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer. There was not so many choices at that time, I felt.
Yeah, definitely. There were like a few well-paid jobs and, you had to go one of the few potential career paths. So that was,
so your surrounding is so, as it's so magical. You just if you change the surrounding to, for example, Nomad Cruise or wherever, surround yourself by people who are just one step further. In my teaching surrounding, when I said I want to get out of the teacher job, they all said, "Oh, are you sure? How do you want to do that?" And there was this big ooh-ah, yeah. But when I took the decision, I'm doing it, then they said, "Oh, very courageous." And I said, "Okay, interesting, yeah, because it's also your energy."
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to go back to the Nomad Cruise because it seems very interesting what you do there, and also like I like to host a workshop once in a while, and it's something really fun. So, tell me, what was the most memorable moment from the Nomad Cruise, and how is it the experience of hosting there?
For me, Nomad Cruise was always in my mind, because I think when I got out of my depression in 2015, I got a newsletter from one of the first nomads in Germany. So there were like I think they were not a couple, but there was something that was called the Block Camp. These were two travelers who started with affiliate links and stuff like this. And there, somehow through that, I got from them a newsletter. Also promoting Nomad Cruise. And I said, what crazy thing is that you bring people from all over the world to one cruise ship that is a relocation deal, so not so expensive, and everybody is sharing their expertise, and you just watch and enjoy. And if you want, you can contribute and do a keynote or host or give a workshop, because there's everything you can imagine on the Nomad Cruise. There are people giving in the evening a salsa dance course or bachata or breath work, and then they share their expertise about marketing, Bitcoin, wherever, and you just choose from the buffet what you can contribute or what you take. It's amazing, and you are in one boat, literally in one boat, and crossing the Atlantic. So this was, my first Nomad Cruise was like, I went into, where did we start? In Gran Canaria, I remember. And then I met the first nomads on a meeting, and then I just asked them, "Where are you from?" And then they just said, "Originally, or where do I live?" Or I said, "What kind of conversation is this?" But they say, "Yeah, I'm from Ecuador, but I've never been there since 7 years, because then I'm traveling the world. So I just come from the US." And crazy that this works. So this was a really big point. So I was just open mouth, open eyes, and I said, interesting, you can live like this. And this conversation started with every nomad I met. And I said, oh, this is apparently possible. There are so many of them. And really on the first Nomad cruise, I gave a workshop, The Flirt with the Camera, and there were like 5 people or so. And I realized already I like this, to teach this, and that it is a pain for so many people, but it was never a pain for me. So it's also when you do coaching or mentoring, the things that you really like with passion and that is easy for you, it's mostly your business then. Nah? But at that time, also I got some nice connections and I did this little workshop. And then I think the second Nomad cruise, I just watched and was a part of it, but I didn't do a workshop or nothing. And then I started in Frankfurt little workshops in co-working spaces, because I like this kind of feeling, co-working spaces, not on a boat, but also in every town. Started in 2018 already to have more co-working spaces. And then I realized, okay, I can do it locally. And then Corona came and I got the possibility to take over the biggest school in Germany for media training and performance and voice training. And then the next Nomad base in 2022 was in South Africa. And I love South Africa because there is my social circus project, the Zips Up Circus School. And I know that nomads like to give back as well. So I engaged a lot to talk to Johannes that the project for Nomad Base to give back is Zips Up, and it happened as well. So he was happy to do that, and like all the nomads contributed to them, and we were invited to have a circus training with 40 nomads. So it was really amazing. And then they realized, I told them as well, that I'm owning now that school, I had to fill that out in a survey. And then there was that keynote speaker day, and they didn't have a host on that day. And then they just said, can you please be the host? And I said, yeah, for sure. It's my job. I love it. Yeah. And so I did this. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of good new connections. And then I gave also a workshop to be in front of the camera. And there were around 50 people at that time. No? So it was much bigger already. No? And then I did also use it as a platform to do my first keynote last year, because I never really was in that keynote speaker scenery, but it worked very well because I had like a full room, concerning the topic.
How do you approach the workshop, in a sense, like how do you present the information and how do you engage people so you make it memorable and that you make them feel like they've learned something and that they can use that in their everyday life?
I make them first aware, what is your first impression? Do you really want to watch yourself, or do you really want to hear your voice? And then when they start about doing this, and we do a funny exercise at the beginning that is a very quick exercise where you just turn around to the other person and give them a word of an animal, what they just associate with that person. And there's so much lying under it. And it's much laughter at the beginning. So this is also very good. No? So you have a good atmosphere then. And then we just in the workshop just have a look, how is your voice? Sounding? Is it a good sound? Do the people really like to listen to your voice in a one-to-one thing? And then I teach them some things, how you can make your voice better to be in front of a microphone first. And then we do also, what is your body doing when you are in front of the people who want to express what you really want to teach, and what kind of attitude, what kind of mood. And then we approach and hope that they have a better first impression with a good opening, not like, I want to present you a presentation about that and that topic. This is university style, but that's not an engaging motivation and a speech. Yeah,
definitely. You don't want to give a lecture that people are going to forget by the time they walk out.
Yeah.
And it's something interesting you brought the idea of the voice and the concept that using your voice, and also you have some stage performance experience. And I was wanting to ask you, like, how do you incorporate that into your everyday life, into your current roles that you do?
My stage performance is the juggling. This is where I learned a lot, because first it was just joyful. I wanted to present my hobby, but I realized over the years that also juggling is a kind of a visualization of you juggle with so many things in life. And when you can juggle very well, as I can do with 5 balls, you can somehow connect this. And that's what I do now. It's called juggling recording. And this is something you can use on conferences or so to really bring together the importance or the essence of some keynotes of the, I don't know, the topics of the day or whatever. So this is like a new job I also created because a friend of mine who is a keynote speaker said, I saw on many conferences these graphic recorders who paint canvas or on an iPad, really like the, I don't know, the quotes of the day, or also really paint it to express the atmosphere of that conference. Can you do that with 3 balls? And I said, ooh, I can juggle, I can talk, why not? And so we created this. No? So this is like the stage performance, how I created every day, or like when I perform as well. And as well to really help people when they come to our trainings, that we warm them up with juggling. Or me as a trainer, I warm them up with juggling, because when you do voice training, you need to warm up your whole upper body. And you can do this with juggling. You can do this with, I don't know, movements, singing, exercises. That's up to you.
Do you feel like stage performance is a cross-sharing skill? What I mean by that is, if you learn how to, for example, perform juggling in front of an audience, do you feel like it's going to be easier to speak in front of an audience or to perform something else in front of your audience because you already have that experience?
For sure, because if you do some acting workshops or also juggling, acrobatics, when you really want to have a nice performance that you connect to the audience, you really have to do perfect movements and really big movements, not to be seen in that what you're doing. And like all these movements you do with juggling, or like also really good tensions, when you do acrobatics, for example, you need this for your attitude, how you are on stage. It's you do it automatically, that you're really entering a stage in a really good manner and not like this.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when I was a kid, I was playing piano, and we had like these festivals that we go to, and I started to play piano in front of, it wasn't a big audience, like maybe 100 people, but I was doing that recurrently every year for like a long time. And then now I realized that I'm very comfortable for some reason in front of on a stage compared to other people. So I had the workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I was very comfortable. I was a bit nervous in the beginning, but I kind of got into it very quickly. But I've noticed that people are very, very uncomfortable on stage. The majority of people, just to speak in front of people or to do anything, because they didn't have that experience. So I feel like for people just to practice that, they can just do anything in front of other people on the stage, and then that's gonna enable them to start doing specific things as a skill.
Yeah. And I also think that there are these people who love the stage, like I have the feelings naturally, but there are others who really are fearful, and that's normal, because you have 2 fears that come together. You have the fear to fail, and the fear not to be loved by other people anymore because you failed. So you have these both really big fears, and I can understand that there are so many people who don't like the stage. But when you really work on that 2 fears and then bring them somehow through visualization or other coaching skills, or even that they own their value, what they're talking about or what their passion is, then they realize, oh, I can change the world or my audience or whatever. And this is much more important than to have that fear. And then it becomes juicy and it's interesting for the people. No? But this is like always this leap you have to fill first.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have 2 last questions for you, which are pretty similar in their nature. First is, what would you tell your former self before starting on this nomadic journey? What advice would you give?
I would say to the young Julia that she should really follow her heart. When you feel something that is really, you're really passionate about, do it, and really do it fully for a time, and then you can change, but not do it like for such a long time 50% on a low flame, because then you never dare. This was my feeling, but at that time I didn't know it better. So today I would say, Harry, just enjoy life in every moment and do what you want now, and not when you're 60 or 70 or something, because you never know if you reach it. Yeah. So
that's a really good advice. Like, don't do anything half-assed. Just like, if you want to do something, do 100%, not doing it at all.
Yeah, and then you can decide, okay, perhaps a bit too much or too big, and then you change it. But if you always want to do it, it's like you want to stand up a bit, doesn't work. You have to stand up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very important to do everything that you do 100% and to commit to the things that you know they're going to do 100% as opposed to half-assed things. And I think it's a very common trend nowadays, people to have a job that they don't really like that much, but just kind of have to do it so they get a paycheck at the end of the day. I think that's pretty, it's not really good for you to get into these habits. I heard this quote some time ago and I really love it. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And if you get used to the habit of doing something, just, have to do something, you're going to do that. Everything you're going to do is going to be half done.
Yeah, and it's also like repeat some things, like it's all exercise. No? So like the first time you step on stage and say something, it feels very awkward. But then you do it the next time, you think, oh, not too bad. Yeah. So you do again the step out of the comfort zone. And the third time you think, oh, I could do that more often, perhaps. Yeah. So that's the same. You jump into the cold water and you think, oh my God, I'm going to die. Next time you do it, okay, refreshing. Next time, I don't know, all these ice bathing people. I do this every day to get my energy. Yeah. Also, I'm not that person. And then it works the same.
Yeah, definitely. I can share you something really quickly. When I did my workshop, I wanted to record just my own personal feedback, and I felt like I did it pretty good. But I think that's something that is more painful than performing on a stage. It's to watch yourself perform on the stage. Because when you're there, at least you're embodying to the experience and it kind of forgets what's happening. You forget to be self-aware. But when you watch yourself very calm, it's like, oh my God, did I say that? Did I do that? But it's really good practice because you realize that the things that you do and everything that you do that you could be improved. And then it's like, oh, I can improve that. I can improve the other thing. And then you can become much better by just, listening to yourself talk. But it's very painful in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And last question is, what's next for you? What are the new adventures you're gonna get yourself into?
The book is the next adventure, because I never have done this publishing process. So I'm really looking forward. How is this flower to bloom? How it works now when you have it then in your hand, because it's going to be published in August. So then you have it in your hand, your baby, and then we have to see if the people like it and where is that leading to, because I have many ideas around it, so that people travel with me to South Africa, in addition to that book, perhaps because they read the first chapter that inspired me so much, but perhaps for another person, it's another journey that starts somewhere else. But we create also, I don't know, coaching retreats on nice spots in the world where you love to be wowed, to be astonished, to be flabbergasted, because like the landscape is so nice, or the project we are doing there is so interesting. Like we are sailing with people around in Mallorca, for example. So I love to create these things around, and these are the next steps to just making the universe around Logo, that's the institute, and around the spaces of wonder would be the translation of all these coaching retreats, the Orte des Staunens in German. This would be the next steps, many steps.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I've had something, not to the same scale that you're gonna have, but like when I create video and I post them online, it's like that. Like I've been working for like maybe 100, 150 hours, maybe 200 hours on this project. And now I'm just kind of curious to see how people react to them. And it's like, oh my God, it's that like, it's a nerve-wracking feeling. It's an exciting and also terrifying. It's like, oh, I hope they're gonna like it, and I just hope they're not gonna be too harsh on me. And then just like go over and over again to see maybe I missed something. It's that process.
Yeah, but really embrace the unknown felt earlier so big and I was so anxious, but now I'm so curious to embrace the unknown, what's coming there. So I really like to do it more often. So we will see. I can just tell all your listeners, collect experiences and go one step after another and just enjoy what comes out of it.
Absolutely. And then, just do the best you can and do better next time.
Yes,
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Really insightful interview. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And I'm looking forward to the launch of the book, to get to read it and to see properly your experience, that everything you've been through so far.
Thank you for the invitation. It was very nice to talk to you as well, and hope to connect to many of your listeners through comments or wherever. Yeah.